started, and you are listening to UAP of the UAP Channel. And yesterday, I did a interview. I was interviewed by a gentleman in Sweden who you may recognize from the channel. He's been a long-time subscriber, and his channel name is You Don't Fool Me Twice. And his name is Sam, and he was pretty cool, and we talked for a couple hours, so I got that to upload. But first, I have a lot to cover about several different topics, and the ones that I'm going to cover are so interesting, and I don't want to forget. There's so many cool things going on. I have so little time to do it all. Plus, I have to spend more time, a little bit more time, trying to get rich slow, get rich quick, whatever, making money. And it's kind of I have mixed feelings about it, but I do need the money, so I'm doing that. But I also am appreciative to the new patrons and the people who they don't use Patreon, but they use other means like the cash.me or the merchandise, and going to the website uapchannel.net and buying either pre-ordering the book or buying the mystery box. And I haven't shipped the mystery boxes out yet, but I will. I just keep making them more awesome. So be patient, those of you who've ordered the mystery box. It's coming, and I would tell you what it has, but it wouldn't be a mystery then, would it? All right, so now I really want to get going on the topics. What I am going to cover, not in this video, is illumination, and I have more giant stuff. I have some weapons tech that is so cool, so mind-blowing. It involves the cannons. It involves the electrical facets. It all ties together, folks. All of this stuff. All the stuff. You might be at my channel saying, look, I just want to look at the mystery history. I don't want to know about NASA and fake space, or vice versa. But it all ties together. It really does. And it really helps to know one thing in order to figure out other things. And the cascade is happening. The dominoes are falling. One thing leads to another. And one thread may be all it takes to weave into the tapestry to see the image start to take shape. So let's begin today with bricks. Bricks, you ask? Yes, bricks. You know, those red rectangular solids with which we have structures built. Or do we? Well, yeah, for a long time. If you look at this one, starting off, this picture, I want you to remember this, because when I go to the other videos, you're going to see how this one picture ties in to so many different things. This one picture is like the Rosetta Stone, the linchpin, the skeleton key, as it were, to much of what I'm talking about this November, early November. And how fortunate you are to be here at the UAP channel, having a front seat to the cutting edge of mystery history and everything else that I'm doing. When you take the ride, when you buy the ticket, you don't want to stop, and you don't want to miss anything. So what I want you to do this moment is make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you hit that notification bell, and if you are using a mobile device, hold down on that notification bell with 3D touch if you have it, and it'll pop up where it's asking you, well, how many notifications do you want? You want some notifications, or you want all notifications? Trust me, you want all notifications. So hit that. Thank you very much. So we'll come back to this picture, but you'll notice that these obelisks are made of bricks. You'll notice a lot of stuff is made of bricks. A lot of huge buildings are made of bricks. There are a lot. So when we look back through this mud-flooded history, we see these huge buildings, these empty streets. We see the hordes of orphans herded around as if they were cattle. And we're told tales about them. Oh, their parents died in the war, or people only lived to 35, or they had to have, they were immigrants, they had to have 10 children per family in order to survive because you needed the labor. And the Industrial Revolution, and they had to move the kids and have them work in factories because there was so much labor needed and not enough people, and all this bull crap. And we see all these brick buildings that are no longer around. We see these utility poles that look modern, like around where I live, all these 5G poles are going up. They look about the same. They're actually smaller than these. And you see these fences around these structures that keep people from snooping around. In the Trurings, we see brick buildings that are immense. Sometimes they're not brick, sometimes they're stone. And we see widespread destruction, no trees, mud everywhere. We see obelisks, and there'll be more on that in the other video about the electrical architecture. We see these arches, like the Arc de Triomphe, or the arch, the Dennis Arch that's been moved. All kinds of these things. And we see things we don't understand, like this. How it's drawn up, it doesn't match up the historical timeline. We'll talk about that with the electrical architecture. The fountains. Bartholdi did not make the fountains out of thin air for an exposition. These things were everywhere. And the building in the background looks curious, especially the proportions. The mud, the vanilla skies trying to hide how the distant horizon shows no life, yet zillions of structures. And then there are these orphan kids running around, the hard scrabble life of the destitute, primitive past. The architecture doesn't say anything like that. The architecture says that something horrible happened that deactivated much of the technology that existed. And in these expositions, it's nothing more than, it's like a hunter's belt when they hang the skins of the animals they hunted temporarily after the big hunt. The treasures are collected up, they're shown at the exposition, and then they're dispensed with or dispersed, they're gone. After the West was won, after the West was conquered, it wasn't eminent domain, they called it manifest destiny. Well, all those treasures were supposedly, donated and imported from countries. There were so many of them, nobody could even really see them all. And then, they show up at Christie's, in 2019 or some other auction house. One thing you'll notice, though, a lot of things are made of bricks. I mean, a lot of things. A lot of buildings that are huge. These buildings are built kind of like how we build buildings today, but the scale. Okay. So look at this building. It's like, okay, yeah, there's a house like this on most, main street, small to mid-sized American towns will have a mansion like this on the high ground of the main street, But look at the lady. You see the lady in the bottom left corner walking along? She's in the foreground, folks. That's how huge this mansion is. So what's going on? A lot of stuff. But what I want to point out is the fact that it's made of bricks. A lot of bricks. Well, how many bricks? Yeah. How many bricks? Thousands, definitely. But no, more than that. Millions in some cases for some buildings. Now that building would be made from thousands or tens of thousands of bricks. But there are things made of bricks we don't even think about, like this Severn tunnel. There's one made of bricks, possibly in 1810, that supposedly didn't go anywhere or do anything. It was one of these so-called supposed unsuccessful tunnels. Yeah. But they eventually got it right in the late 1800s, supposedly, and constructed this tunnel. And there's an interesting story that goes along with it that I'll share because I believe it's real, and I believe that there's a hero in this story whose achievement deserves to be recognized because of what he did. But I want to point out that tunnel is made from 76.4 million bricks. Okay? So that is about as many as these cathedrals are made of that I'm going to show you. And it's all going to come together. I will demonstrate the absurdity of the historical narrative simply by looking at bricks. So this tunnel goes beneath the river over in England or Wales by 15 meters under the bottom of the riverbed. It's ballsy, you think, in the 1800s to be building that. But the hero of the story, I have to tell you, the pump didn't work, and so all their work would be for naught if the tunnel were flooded and you couldn't get the pump started and get the water out. And it's murky, dark, and there was no such thing really as scuba diving, and somebody had to dive down hundreds of meters across and get the pump working and get that flowing and not get sucked in and all this kind of stuff, like in the dark. And oh my gosh, if you suffer from thalassophobia, it'd be like the worst nightmare. Well, there's a guy, he was the chief diver in the construction crew there, and they had just started to develop the scuba tank, and so he had them rig one up for him based on what they knew, and then he dove down and he got it working, and he was a true hero. And I'm sorry I don't have his name, but it was an interesting little tidbit here. But we're going to look at bricks. So a lot of stuff in, for example, New Zealand and Australia and South Africa, they didn't ship bricks over there. They didn't ship bricks, as far as I know, over here to the United States when they, in colonial times, but they were certainly building all these buildings out of bricks. Because when you look at, like, the city I live in, you look at the different historical, and they show all these log cabins and these lean-to kind of wigwam-y type structures made of, like, just logs and sticks and things like that, and thatch and mud, and it's ridiculous. And then in the very first photos you see, the actual photographs of the city, there are huge, magnificent, like Mudflood Tatarian type brick buildings that are way large scale, multiple floor, like 5-6 floors high. And you know what I mean by floors, it's like 18 feet per floor. And then those are mostly torn down, but that's what the photographic evidence tells us. Now, where did all those bricks come from? Well, I'm going to start looking in Australia here at these reports that I came across about Canberra and how they tried to make a brickyard there, and there were reports on the progress or lack thereof. So they purchased a kiln, and this is where it gets super interesting, because this is in New South Wales. They have their state geologist because they're looking at the manufacture of bricks. And so I think the realization hit them that they need to be making bricks before people ask questions of where did all these brick buildings come from, where did the bricks come from, right? Or maybe they were just kind of stealing bricks off of the empty buildings and things like that, just knocking them out to build their own houses somewhere. Whatever the case, they found some shale deposits that were ideal for the manufacture of pressed bricks. They thought maybe they could make, with 500,000 cubic yards, they could produce possibly out of the entire shale deposit 180 million bricks over time. And so they set out to do that, and that would knock the quarry the deposit down 40 feet. And then beyond that, they didn't know how many more bricks they could make from their estimate, but probably not that many. So the interesting thing was that so they got started, and the first thing they have to do is they have to make a kiln. They claim to have made 250,000 good bricks in order to build the powerhouse. My contention is the powerhouse was already there. They just had to explain how their first brick making operation, or possibly the first, would have gotten started when obviously the kiln and the house and the brickyard are made of bricks already, and people show up and nobody knows how to make bricks. You'll see. So they got started, but none of the bricks that they made for it were good. They made defective bricks. So they blamed the materials. Okay. And they altered their estimate and said, well, there's enough material to make 90 million bricks, okay, out of the entirety of the brickyard. Okay. So then they started making bricks, and they were only good enough to be used as filling and lining drains. They couldn't be used even for building purposes. They were defective. So what they did, they bought some top of the line, state of the art kilns, which I didn't think that was much of a technology, but apparently at the time it was something somewhat new, and brick making machines. Okay. And these were very expensive because it's high technology for the time. And with that, what do you think they could do? Well, besides spending a lot of money, they couldn't make good bricks. No good bricks had, up to that date, been fired or burned. So there's trouble. But what they had with them, they had a problem. Their top geologist said that they could build bricks, and they had what is supposedly the best kiln in England or Australia with them, but yet they still couldn't make good bricks. But they kept trying, and eventually they did start to make some bricks, but the number of bricks that they made wasn't even close to what they had estimated, and it really didn't turn out well for them. So here I looked for more contemporary times. So I found this. There's a turnkey brick making facility designed and built by the historic company that has built bricks in Russia for a long time. So I look at what is their capacity, and they have a total production capacity of 700 tons per day, which adds up to 90 million bricks per year. And this is one of the top brick makers, probably in the world, but definitely in Russia. It's one of the top brick production companies. And I thought, that's odd, because 90 million bricks a year, it really isn't that much. And there's more detail here, but the photo quality isn't good enough to read. So I look at the United States, and I find the leading U.S. brick manufacturer sells around 90 million bricks per year. That's it, 90 million. Okay. Then there's this conundrum about bricks. This is from 2018. Brick manufacturers are forever having to refute accusations of inadequate supply. Forever having to refute accusations of inadequate supply. But why do brick shortages persist, or reports of them? There's no bricks, and there might not be for quite some time, is what they always hear. And you look and you say, okay, well, the top brick makers, they make 600 different types of bricks, and they have an annual production capacity in excess of 100 million bricks per year. This other one has 14 plants, 1,000 different products. Just 100 million bricks a year. Now, that sounds like a lot, 100 million, but it's not. You'll see. Because in the entirety of the United Kingdom, the market reportedly consumed about 2.4 billion bricks and manufactured less than 1.9 billion. I think a lot less. Where are the bricks coming from? older buildings, I believe. They import them. They imported 500 million bricks or more through destocking, which is demolition or reduction of inventory. So the top facilities can produce 100 million bricks in a year today. This building has almost 100 million bricks, just this one building. The Battersea Power Station. I'll get the exact number of how many bricks it has. But it's somewhere, it's between 50 and 100 billion. It's closer to 100 million rather. I think it's around 90 million bricks for that building. But these buildings that are in the above 50 million bricks just for the single building there are quite a few of them all over the world. St. Mary's Church in Gdańsk, Poland is one. In Russia, there is a brick cathedral that is now like the State Historical Museum. Over 50 million bricks, I believe. The thing is, it's not just one place, it's all over the world. And then it's not just the one building, but all the buildings around it when you look back in history. Like in Gdańsk, Poland, that whole town, that's all bricks. It's all the same bricks. Every building around there, the streets are brick. The walls are brick. Everything's brick. There are billions of bricks in that area. Or probably a billion bricks in that town, roughly. And all these other towns, Malaysia, the Sultan Abdul Samad building, even buildings you've probably never heard of, Sri Lanka, the Jetavanaramaya. You've got Plaza de Toros de las Ventas, Spain, that's where the bullfighting happens. Toro. You've got these like decommissioned tobacco warehouses like the Stanley Dock in the UK. It's way over 50 million bricks. The buildings that they tried to destroy but didn't, like St. Pancras, tens of millions of bricks, probably 30 million bricks just for the one building. Here's a hospital in Spain, Hospital de São Paulo, Spain. How many tens of millions of bricks is that? You've got castles like the Malbork Castle in Poland. So many bricks. You've got big bridges made out of bricks. All the way down, the footers are bricks. All the way down into the ground, under the water, bricks. The walls, bricks. The hotels, bricks. The eateries, bricks. The hospitals, bricks. The star forts, bricks. The riverbanks, bricks. The streets, bricks. The sidewalks, bricks. You get my point. Walls, bricks. Bricks out your wazoo. If you don't like bricks, you're in the wrong place. But where are you going to go? Bricks are everywhere. And who's making them? Who made all these bricks? Look at this cathedral. Look at this. The street is bricks. The plaza is bricks. The outbuildings are bricks. The interior walls are brick. Brick. I once knew somebody named Brick. It's a weird name. I wouldn't name my kid Brick. Who would do that? I don't know. 35 million bricks. Or wait, no, that's meters. 35 meters. I don't know. Because I think it's more than that many bricks. I think that's way over 50 million bricks for this cathedral. It's huge, I'm telling you, folks. And then that door, that opening, that's probably even older than the cathedral itself. It may have been reconstructed. Now the benches, the pews aren't brick. Look at this doorway. I mean, my gosh. The steps are bricks. Yeah, you can't get away from the bricks. Who made them? When were they made? The whole town, I'm telling you. Brick everywhere. Looks cool though. The streets. So you can look, if you don't believe me, 26 million bricks for the one building. And then here's this bridge. How many bricks is that? I think that's 26 million bricks for that. You got star forts that are made of millions and millions of bricks. 16 million handmade bricks on a shallow island. How do you do that? Where did the bricks come from? Did they bring them in on canoes, boats? I mean, think about that. Okay, all right, Phil, welcome to your new job. It's 1846, and you're going to work a 30-year career, and your job will be transporting 16 million of our handmade bricks to this shallow island of the dry Tortugas. It's one of the outermost islands of the Florida Keys. Why? Because this coastal fortification is absolutely critical to the safety and security of our people. It's going to take us 30 years to build it, but then we'll be safe, and it will be because of the bricks. The 16 million handmade bricks, every last one of them, is absolutely required to rest the safety and security of your family. Now, what is going to happen in the meantime, in the 30 years that it's going to take us to make these 16 million handmade bricks and get them out there? Well, we just have to roll the dice. But at least when we're done, we'll know we are secure. Yeah. Now, inside these brick buildings, this is in the Cathedral of Gdansk, you find some curious technology that is beyond the ken of people today. First of all, I want to point out that this is a 12-hour clock. It's a flat earth clock. It shows the position of the sun on the earth as it goes around in its rotation about the North Pole. If you aren't familiar with that, I'm sorry. This looks like a funky record or something, but I assure you it's a computer, and it's very intelligently made. I'm surprised it's still around. I'm surprised it's not broken. I'm surprised it's not destroyed or sunken into a swamp or on a jetty as a wave breaker or something like that. Because that's what they tend to do with this type of stuff, rather than try to understand it. Oh, it's based on flat Earth. Well, it can't possibly be right. Well, if you look into it, it actually is exactly right. And it exactly predicts every celestial event that you could possibly think about predicting, such as eclipses and all these things. Now, with the time changes that they've done, they screw that up, with messing around with the number of hours in the day, the number of days in the year, the months in the year, the daylight savings time. And I'm still a little bit messed up from the daylight savings time. It's very disruptive to everybody, I think. I don't like it. I don't like the confusion. They had it all figured out before. Why introduce the confusion? Why? I mean, this is a beautiful piece of, well, it's a computer, really. Calendar, computer. It's like an astrolabe. But back to the bricks. Many of the brick buildings are gone. The bricks aren't gone. They're reappropriated. And yes, bricks are made today. They are, but not that many. And even our top technologies, we just can't crank them out fast enough. We certainly couldn't build these buildings. We could build a number of these buildings each year, but there are many more buildings than there are years between now and the dates that they were supposedly constructed. So either A, they're lying, or they've misunderstood something, or B, the bricks were already there on those dates. They were made at an earlier time, or C, in the past, in the recent past, I guess, supposedly for C, they had the ability to make bricks like nobody's business today. And I don't think that's the case, because too many other things don't match, like the level of the ground indicates there was a massive catastrophe that flooded dirt and mud into cities from the top down, and possibly a bottom up, but not sideways. And that is not in the historical record for the most part. A lot of buildings you think are stone, stucco, whatever, they have brick underneath. The columns, the Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian that you learned about in school, a lot of them all have these red bricks inside. That's what the bones and the guts of them are. It's not solid stone. It's not wood. In some cases, it may be petrified wood. That is, if it is solid stone, it probably was originally wood. But yeah, if you look around, I don't care where you live, if you look around at your older buildings in town, the ones that somehow made it, they are going to seem out of place. They'll be brick. That's not out of place, except that people don't really make that many bricks these days. The bricks are higher quality in a lot of respects than if I go to my local hardware store here, I do not get the quality of bricks that you find in these structures. Why is that? Why would that be? We can't make them as well, and we can't make them as fast, or we can't make as many. And there are so many more people now. It should be so easy. And with all the technological advancements, you would think that the linear increase in technology through time would dictate that the capacity, the production volume of bricks, and the quality and the cost of making the bricks would only decrease, except for lack of resources. But I don't see that. I don't see a lack of the shale or whatever resources. And besides, with all of the advanced knowledge that we have today, thanks to evolutionary biology and fake space and whatever else the universities are teaching, supposedly that translates to technology, and that means that we can find our way around any material shortages by using and substituting in other materials that are equal in quality. But yeah, if you just look around, take a look. I mean, maybe you don't have something this massive in your city, but maybe you did in the past. Maybe you are on top of it. Maybe it's underneath you. Does anybody count those? Do we count these bricks that are underneath? Do we even know about them? Right here, I love this picture because this is like the video I made about Seattle and the underground, and the other videos I've made about, you know, the tunnels and the underground cities. This is what it looks like, folks. When you're walking through those tours, they're just sending you through one little pre-planned out passageway of this vast labyrinth. Much of it is filled in with silt, mud. Much of it's filled in with water. They run sewer lines through some of them, but don't be fooled. There's much more down there to see. There's much more to it, and it goes down farther than you may believe. If you look at aerial photos, you'll see places where clearly buildings existed in the past, but there's no record, there's no history of what those buildings were. Here are some of the earliest colonial buildings. They're made of bricks. Where did the bricks come from? Well, they say maybe they were handmade on the spot, for the construction. Well, if you look at the construction, let's take a closer look here. You see, we can't even look at what they're doing to repair this damage. Look at this. They're using cinder blocks because bricks are either too expensive or too hard to come by. Or maybe the bricks of today, they just wouldn't really match up. They wouldn't really work out that well. I mean, why? What about the history of the building? And then notice here, there's windows half buried, so they put some plywood there, try to cover it up and keep some of the water from coming in. I mean, we need to just question this, don't we? I do. I don't think there's any other way to go about it. Where did it all come from? Why are there so few gravestones that are even from colonial times? There's hardly any. There's a handful in an entire state. Was the colony was it all founded by, a handful of people? It doesn't make sense. And then there's the evidence of the star forts everywhere. And just these brick buildings are just, you can't get away from them. They're all over the place. So you have some bigger ones. You have some, you have a bunch of them are underwater. They're on outlying islands. They're part of these ornate, huge buildings that get turned into museums, aka indoctrination centers. So there's just India. You look at any country. I mean, So let's look at, this video I did about India. Just one of the striking things, I think this picture details it the best. It's so striking to me how many bricks are there, are used. It just boggles my mind. And then there's that brick, what do they call it? The brick fortress. Oh, there's ye olde Ladderline down there, you see it? They built this fort out of bricks. Fort Casimir, I think it was built out of bricks. Yeah, and they abandoned it after they built it because of skeeters. They were buggered by the skeeters, so they quit. Here, look at this. I think that's brick. My gosh, is that a huge building? Look at it. Holy smokes. You want to make bricks for that building? Could you even do it in a lifetime? Probably not. And then they're disused. A lot of these buildings just stand empty. It's insane. I tell you. India, the British arrive, they just rule, and then they just introduce architecture, and then they build it up, and then nobody really uses it. They don't really have the need for it. India, one of the most populated countries. You look at the pictures, you don't see that many people around. But boy, you see a lot of bricks. If bricks were people, India would really be overcrowded. All right, I have to wrap this up. Bricks under the ground. Okay, look at that. That's the picture I want to show you. There it is. Look at all those bricks under the ground. I mean, come on. That's insane. And after a while, it's like stone. That's when they start saying it's carved out of stone. But in these old pictures, the bricks look old. I'm not saying bricks are a new invention. They've been around for a long time. But in these colonial areas, they didn't make them. So the numbers don't really seem to add up. And it's just one more thing to add to the curiosity of the entire thing. And as you go down, the bricks get larger. You go underground, there are still bricks around. They just get larger. Look at these cannons with the tapered barrels. Give me a break. Give me a break. All right, that's it. Hope you enjoyed. Next up is we're going to cover the electrical weapons, electrical knights and shining armor. And we're going to cover the electrical architecture of the past, the higher technologies that were much cooler than what we have today. So, hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.